Now at Lowe's, faster quotes start at the Lowe's Pro Desk. Got a material list handwritten on a sticky note or saved as a photo? Perfect. Bring it to us and get a quote in minutes. And if you don't see what you need on the shelf, we'll help you get it. You can access thousands of products beyond what's available in-store or on Lowe's.com, right from the Lowe's Pro Desk. Build quotes faster and source the materials you need to keep your jobs moving. Just like that, at Lowe's.
Looking for these better days.
It is Friday, June 5th. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. The Hurricanes even up the Stanley Cup final at a game apiece with a 4-3 overtime win over the Vegas Golden Knights. Game 2 of the NBA Finals is tonight. We'll talk some playoff action here on this episode of Better Day presented by FanDuel. Jake Hassan will have a preview of the NCAA Baseball Super Regionals, which get underway today with his best bets and leans and looks for the Super Regionals as the road to Omaha continues in college baseball. Let's talk about the Stanley Cup final last night, game number 2, with the Knights having a 1-game-to-none series lead. And early on, it looked like Vegas was going to take a 2-games-to-none series lead. A 1-0 lead at the end of the first period, and then Brett Howden scored his second goal of the game, his 13th of the playoffs, to give Vegas a 2-0 lead at the end of the second period. At that point, I'm thinking a couple of things. One, this game's going under. We had the under 5.5 last night, and it looks like that's where we're headed, towards an under in this game, and maybe the over, and the amount of goals that we saw in game number 1 was a bit of an over, like an anomaly, and the line going up from 5.5 to 6 was maybe a bit of an overreaction, but hey, we're on the under. It's 2-0 as we head to the third period, and let's see how the third period plays out. Well, in that third period, Carolina came out just on fire. Logan Stankoven scored a goal to make it 2-1, and then the Kings tied it at 2, and then things, as if it already wasn't interesting, literally a couple of minutes later, Vegas thinks they scored the go-ahead goal. And this is where I think a lot of people are going to have a debate whether or not it was the right decision or not. But the call on the ice was no goal because the officials couldn't see if the puck was under Frederik Andersen or not. And so the whistle was blown with about 5 minutes left or so. And they say no goal, no goal, no goal. And John Tortorella, the coach of the Vegas Golden Knights, decided, something? Well, I'm going to challenge this call. Well, actually, it wasn't. It's not just that it was called a no goal, but it was waved off because they said it was goaltender interference. Because the whistle should have been blown, the play should have been blown dead, but they're still chopping away at the puck and chopping away, sticking away at the puck underneath the goaltender, and so it's called no goal for goaltender interference. Now, what Steve Jaffe, the rules analyst on ESPN, was explaining that it doesn't have to be a penalty for goaltender interference for them to say that goaltender interference was the reason why there was no goal. So it's not like there was a penalty for Vegas for goaltender interference. They just felt that there was interference that led to the puck going in, and therefore we're going to rule it no goal. But Torts decides to use his coach's challenge. And then, of course, they go to the situational room and they determine the call on the ice stands. And this is where I think John Tortorella made a mistake. To me, the call on the ice was never going to be overturned. There wasn't conclusive evidence to overturn the call on the ice. And you know something? I feel this way, that if it was the other way around, if Vegas had been ruled, if it was ruled a good goal for Vegas, and then, Rod Brindamore challenged it, it would have stood as a good goal. That was the call on the ice, and there was no evidence to contradict the call on the ice. So the Vegas Golden Knights lose the challenge. As a result of losing the challenge, they are, it's a bench minor penalty. So Carolina goes on the power play. They score the go-ahead goal on the power play. But then later on in the third period, as Vegas has done so many times, not just in this playoffs, but in the regular season as well, they are never out of any game. And with about 90 seconds left or so, Mark Stone with the really... He didn't really touch the puck, or he did touch the puck. It was ruled his goal. Mitch Marner sends the puck to the net, and it winds up going in pretty much off of a Carolina defender under Frederik Andersen. Vegas had a power play. The power play was over, and then they pulled the goaltender and they score with the extra attacker with about 90 seconds or so left in the game, and they tie it, forcing overtime. And then Seth Jarvis on the power play gets the game-winning goal for the Carolina Hurricanes about 4 minutes into overtime, and the Stanley Cup final is even at a game apiece. What I like to do is I like to look at the advanced metrics when it comes to any game in hockey. And last night, if you looked at all of the analytic numbers, and I look at 5v5, it's the thing that jumps out to me the most because 5-on-5 is really how you can tell who has the better of the play, right? And I look at several different metrics here. So I'm just going to read a couple out to you. In 5-versus-5 situations last night, for the entirety of the game, and that includes overtime, okay? In 5v5 situations, the Carolina Hurricanes had 65 shot attempts to 34 for the Vegas Golden Knights. Of those, 42 got through to the net for Carolina, 27 for the Golden Knights. For the actual shots on goal, though, 23 for the Golden Knights, 21 for the Hurricanes. Scoring chances, 28 for Carolina, 19 for Vegas. High danger chances, 10 for Carolina and 9 for Vegas. The expected goal numbers, 2.28 for Carolina, 2.05 for Vegas. The actual numbers, 2-2. This was an even game, a very even game. Carolina had the better of the play in some aspects of it, but it really was an even game. And now going into game 3, where the series is going to shift here to Vegas, I favor Vegas on home ice. Like, nothing about last night's performance tells me that I should be leaning towards Carolina more heavily in this series. I think this is a coin flip series. The first 2 games were split 1-1, and the line in game number 3 up on FanDuel right now is a -110 split both ways. Total is 5.5, juice to the over at -128. We've had 2 overs already in games 1 and 2, but I like Vegas to win at home. Give me Vegas here. And it's a short price, -110, but I like Vegas to win this game. I like Vegas to win the series. Series price right now updated up on FanDuel. Carolina -142. VGK +118. From the Stanley Cup final to the NBA Finals we go, where it is game 2 tonight between the New York Knicks and the San Antonio Spurs from San Antonio. And up on FanDuel right now, it is the Spurs 6.5-point favorites, with your total of 214.5. We talked about this yesterday with David Behrman, and if you missed that podcast, just go back on this Better Day podcast feed, or if you're reading the newsletter, you can, you want to go read yesterday's newsletter. I told David the same thing I'm going to tell you guys. The first quarter system is the way to go for me for the San Antonio Spurs, right? It's the zigzag. It's the team after losing game number 1. It's just a very, very strong trend to back the San Antonio Spurs, who already are just one of the great first quarter teams in the NBA. Spurs up on FanDuel right now, -188 in the first quarter on the first quarter money line. The first quarter spread up on FanDuel is 2.5, -113 on the -2.5 for the San Antonio Spurs. But as much as I like the Spurs to win the first quarter, and by the way, I might as well just read you those numbers like while we're at it, right? So you guys can, if you didn't read the newsletter yesterday or listen to yesterday's podcast, here's the zigzag system that we've been betting throughout these NBA playoffs. The previous loser in the series that is favored in the next game on the first quarter money line, 21-8-1 this season, these playoffs. And if you go back to the 2021 season, 98-52-5. On the first quarter money line. But then I isolated it to home favorites who lost specifically game 1 in the series, and then are favored again in game number 2. Since the 2021 season, those teams are 19-3-1 on the money line in the first quarter. So all trends point to the San Antonio Spurs first quarter money line tonight. But that being said, you're giving me 6.5 points with a New York Knicks team that has won 12 straight games, that refuses to lose, that has come from multiple double-digit deficits down to prove how gritty and gutsy this team is. San Antonio played a decent game. The Knicks did not play their best game, but, they certainly played a good enough game to win, and Jalen Brunson was Superman for them. Down 14 in the third quarter, they surged back, which is what they've done before. I saw this stat online yesterday that if you look at teams to trail, and this was really interesting. So teams to trail by 14 or more points in the second half of a playoff game since the start of the 2024 playoffs. The Knicks are 6-6 in those games. The rest of the NBA is 10-100 in those games. That's how resilient these Knicks have been. So you're giving me 6.5 points. I'm sorry. With all due respect to San Antonio, I think they win the first quarter. Give me plus 6.5 with the New York Knicks every single time. We're going to get a college baseball preview from Jake Hassan coming up here in just a minute, but big news in Major League Baseball yesterday as the Yankees announced that Aaron Judge has been diagnosed with a stress fracture of the first rib on his right side, and he's coming back this year, but he's going to be out for a significant amount of time. He's going to be re-imaged in approximately 4 to 6 weeks. And that's what they're saying to determine the healing and the next steps. They actually thought it was going to be worse. They thought that it was going to be something, pretty bad, maybe like thoracic outlet syndrome, which is something that we have seen Major League players be out with for the entirety of the rest of the season. There's 100 games left in the year. Yankees are going to miss Aaron Judge for 2 months at least, and then he'll be reevaluated and see when he can return to action. It hasn't been a great start to the season for Aaron Judge. It's, down by all metrics. 17 home runs, though, is still pretty good, right? 248 average, not certainly up to Aaron Judge standards. The home runs trailing, several other players. But he's going to be out now, and the Yankees will have to deal without him. Thankfully, their pitching has stepped up with, those guys coming back. Carlos Rodon started yesterday for the Yankees. They beat the Guardians 2-1. Rodon went 6 innings, only allowed 1 run with 7 strikeouts. All right, let's get to a college baseball preview with our very own Jake Hassan.
Welcome back. I am Jake Hassan, getting you ready for the Super Regionals of the college baseball tournament. We are about to embark on what is essentially the Sweet 16, as a couple other teams are about to get cut out. The field will about to be cut in half, and we have a bunch of bets for this weekend, so let's break it all down for you. We'll start at the top of the bracket with Cal Poly going against West Virginia. The Mountaineers, your minus 370 favorite in this one for the series. Cal Poly at plus 265. I really think West Virginia has the juice here. This team had 2 come-from-behind wins against Kentucky. This was also a team that, in the regional round, their pitching staff didn't really do much. It's a West Virginia team that had the 8th lowest ERA in the nation. And they really didn't show up in the regional tournament, especially against Kentucky. But that Kentucky team was underrated. They were finally healthy for the first time all year. And now Cal Poly, a different story. They were 33rd in batting average in the nation, but they were outside of the top 150 in OBP. They were just 127th in homers. I think the West Virginia Mountaineers can bounce back. I think the pitching staff bounces back here. I'm going to lay the minus 2.5 here in game 1. That's minus 106 for West Virginia. I think the pitching staff will be much better. The crowd is going to be jacked up. We saw that after the walk-off win in game 7 where they're singing Country Roads in Morgantown. So I like West Virginia minus 2.5 in the first game. I have no problem laying that run line. I think this team really could make a run to the final series as well. Even though North Carolina and Auburn are on this side of the bracket, I love West Virginia's pitching. I love the grit that they've shown with the come-from-behind wins. Really think they have the juice. But for this series, I think they do win, and I'm going to lay the minus 2.5 with the first game with West Virginia. Now let's go to possibly the most shocking super regional that we have, and probably definitely the most shocking super regional. Arkansas Little Rock at Troy. And this one was surprising to me because you have a 3 seed hosting a 4 seed, and Troy opens as minus 340 favorites for the series. I just don't think that's right. I think that Little Rock is much closer here than the series price indicates. I like playing Little Rock to win the series at plus 250. Little Rock, if we remember, was the only team in the 2025 tournament that beat LSU before they went on their run to win the national title. Little Rock was the only team. And Little Rock almost beat LSU in a Game 7 as well. They pushed them. Little Rock was leading that Game 7 for the first 5 innings. New year, new team, but it's clear that this Little Rock team is leaning on the experience they have from last year. They've been in this spot. They're not just a random 4 seed. I think they have the tools to continue to go on this run. I think they can win this region, this super regional against Troy. Give me Little Rock at plus 250 to win the series against Troy. Keeping it moving here, USC at North Carolina. North Carolina minus 250, the number 5 overall seed at home. That makes sense. USC upsetting in the College Station region, ousting Texas A&M. But I think that UNC probably does win this super. But I'm going to play on USC in Game 1 at plus 142. You're going to give me Mason Edwards, arguably and probably the second best pitcher in the country behind only Jackson Flora. I don't think he should be this big of a dog against anyone. He gave up 5 earned runs in the regional, and it was just 4 1/3 inning. But USC pitched off in that series. He didn't pitch on a Friday. He pitched on a Saturday morning. We know how pitchers are. They're creatures of habit, especially in college. I think that getting Edwards back in his usual Friday spot, his usual routine, I'm going to take him on the money line here. And theoretically, when USC wins this Game 1, I think that then could be a buy spot on UNC. But again, Edwards at plus 140, the guy who put up a 1.49 ERA in the regular season, 154 strikeouts, just 84 innings. I want to back that guy for sure. Moving on to Ole Miss and Auburn. Shout out to Auburn picking their heads up and not saying die in the series in their region against Milwaukee. They get punched in the mouth in Game 1, losing to 4-seed Milwaukee. They climb all the way back out of the losers bracket to beat Milwaukee twice, both times by margin as well, more than margin. They cover the run line in both, and I really like the look in Auburn's eye here. After they beat Milwaukee 8-1 and 8-3 in those elimination games, they are led by Chase Fralick. He homered in every single game in regional play. This Auburn lineup is dangerous. They can keep up with anybody. And Ole Miss, on the other side, was dying to lose the Lincoln region. They had 2 very close games against Arizona State. I think that you're getting a break with Hunter Elliott pitching Game 1. He's probably going to be a major league pitcher at some point. But both matchups against Arizona State for Ole Miss were extra innings, including the decisive game. So I think Ole Miss is very flawed. I think they were lucky to get out of that region. I'm going to lay Auburn minus 1.5 at plus 104 in the first game. I think that's a really good price. I think 1.5 is a gift. I think Auburn was woken up. I think they got punched in the mouth, like I said, by Milwaukee, and kind of got woken up, and it was a come to Jesus moment, if you will, for Auburn there. So I think they're going to come out swinging here, literally and figuratively. Auburn minus 1.5 in Game 1. We flip to the other side of the bracket where you have Mississippi State at Georgia. And the big thing here is that Georgia is going to be missing their star first baseman, Trey Phelps, who was ejected from the final game of regional play, which now means he's going to be suspended for Game 1 of the Supers. But I think that means we're getting a good price here in Game 1. You can get minus 128 on the money line with Georgia, and even at minus 145 for the series price with Georgia, I think that's fine as well. Mississippi State, to me, even though they rolled through regional play, I still really like this Georgia team that is just an absolute machine. The reigning SEC champs. They were tactical. They steamrolled everybody throughout the year. They breezed through regional play. They won 18-2, 6-2, and 6-1. And their pitching staff was what impressed me the most. The fact that they were able to limit runs And Georgia, their thing has always been the ability to score, but run prevention has always been their Achilles heel. But they were able to do that. Granted, it was against Long Island and Liberty, but I was still impressed. So Georgia, I like them in game 1 on the money line, and I like the series price. I think that's a little bit of a gimme at minus 145 on Georgia as well. Oregon at Texas. Texas, your minus 310 favorites. I just think this is right. Oregon, good for them. They hosted, but they honestly had a very easy region with Washington State, Oregon State, and Yale. A bunch of teams that couldn't score. And now you go to Austin with a lineup led by Carson Tinney, Aiden Robbins. I just think that Oregon isn't ready and isn't made for this. Not even to mention Texas's dynamic duo in the rotation with Rojas and, of course, Dylan Volantis needs to be mentioned. Not much to do here. I just think Texas wins, and I don't think minus 310 is a wrong price there. But where we do have another big favorite, Alabama hosting St. John's after St. John's comes out of the Tallahassee region. The Red Storms plus 340 for the series. Alabama minus 500. And I'll give Alabama credit. I kind of thought that maybe there was a chance they wouldn't come out of their region. I liked Oklahoma State, but Alabama took care of business. But to me, this is more about the Johnnies. The Johnnies absolutely went on a tear. They toppled Florida State twice, and they absolutely took care of Northern Illinois. Even though St. John's had to win in a 9th-inning comeback in Game 1 against Florida State, and they had to hold off Florida State in the elimination game where the Noles scored 2 runs in the top of the 9th, St. John's hung on, and I think they have a chance to steal a game against Alabama, and I do think that that's going to be Game 1 because I think that Alabama, even though they rolled through regional play, a couple times, like Oklahoma State, gave Alabama some trouble. Every time Alabama tried to pull away in that game, Oklahoma State scored a couple back. Even though they ended up losing, I did think that showed some flaws in Alabama's pitching staff. So I think St. John's could come out hot here and steal Game 1. Plus 340 on the initial money line. Same as the series price. We'll get in, get it out. Game 1 with St. John's. I'm going to take that. And then to wrap things up here, Oklahoma at Kansas, the first ever time that Kansas is hosting a super regional. They've opened up even more tickets. This place is going to be rocking. Here's my problem with Oklahoma. Even though they were able to oust number 2 overall seed Georgia Tech, I just don't know which pitching staff we're going to get. Are we going to get the Cam Johnson and LJ Mercurius that led Oklahoma to a top 10 ranking in the first couple weeks of the season? Or are we going to get the 2 guys that couldn't pitch on the road and led to Oklahoma being a 2 seed in the tournament? I'm not sure. I don't think Kansas pitching staff has anything to write home about, but their offense is tactical. They're surgical. They move runners. They take the free base. And you can do that against this Oklahoma pitching staff. We saw that Oklahoma, if they're going to win, it's going to be by scoring runs. So I'm just going to bet overs in these games. I think Oklahoma's offense has some juice. I think Kansas knows how to score runs, even if it's with small ball. And if you get a bad Mercurius and bad Johnson, especially in the first 2 games, there's going to be a lot of runs here. So I'm just going to bet the overs in those games. That does it. That is everything that you need to know for the Super Regional Round. I am Jake Hassan. Follow me on Twitter at @TheJakeHassan. Follow my Substack at hassanshacks.substack.com. And, of course, follow us on Better Day. Make every day a better day. Myself and Colby Marcio doing a show Wednesdays and Fridays off the board at 11:30 a.m. Central every Wednesday and Friday where we break down everything baseball. So join us for that. That's on the Better Day YouTube pages. But until next time, I am Jake Hassan. Best of luck on everybody's cards this weekend.
Great stuff from Jake. The college baseball super regionals get underway today. Plenty of opportunities to bet on not just these college baseball games, but in the futures market as well. So it's a fun time of the year, and the road to Omaha continues here today. Don't forget, you can follow us across all your social media platforms. Coming up later today, Jake and Colby Marchio will be streaming their Off the Board podcast on the Better Day YouTube page, as well as on Twitter at better_day. We have some huge announcements coming in the next few weeks. Still working on a lot of things behind the scenes to make the product better for you guys, and we're really excited about what's to come, obviously, as we gear up towards football season as well. For Jake Hassan, who gave us that college baseball preview, I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's hoping you make today and every day a better day.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.